Recently, I had a chance to watch a movie I hadn't seen in probably 15 years. The film Blood and Donuts, a Canadian horror movie with bits of dark humor thrown in. The movie is directed by Holly Dale, who went on to become an accomplished television director today, and written by Andrew Ray Berzins, who went on to write several made-for-TV movies through the 2000s. Blood and Donuts is not one of those films I ever hear talked about that often, and it was shown to me for the first time when I was 20 years old, when someone was aghast and astonished I had never seen the movie, but I was obsessed with vampires, which I still am today. The movie had come out in 1995. One of the most notable stars in the film is David Cronenberg, who plays a crime boss in the film. But the film stars Gordon Curry as Boya, Louise Ferreira as Earl, Helena Clarkson as Molly, Fiona Reed as Rita, Frank Moore as Pierce, Hadley Kay as Axel, and many others. Most of the film takes place around a coffee shop as a vampire wakes up from a many-year slumber. The vampire wakes up from his 25-year slumber, goes to a local cemetery with the help of the cabbie, who becomes kind of his human companion through the movie, to retrieve his belongings from the graveyard. At the same time he wakes up, his girlfriend Rita, who he has a connection to as having bitten her many years ago, is startled by his reawakening and tries to hunt him down because she's jealous that he never converted her into a vampire and she aged 25 years, making her approximately about 50 or 40 years old at this point. And she, despising her aging self, wants to kill her ex-boyfriend. Our main character goes to an all-night donut shop where a majority of the scenes take place, where he happens to meet the waitress Molly and begins to fall in love with her, much to the chagrin of his ex-girlfriend. Now, the movie's rated R for violence and gore, but there's very minimal amount of it in this film. But it just might have been a matter of the Census Bureau's ratings for this film to get that kind of rating. One of the things I do have to say about this film, it's a rather unique vampire film, as we do center a lot on this diner, and donuts are a prominent thing in the film, as you see throughout the movie. One of the things I really did like, because I am a big fan of donuts myself. Some of the music in this film definitely stood out to me when I heard it, and I couldn't believe it. That it put a spell on you by Screaming Jay Hawkins, Mr. Sandman by Pat Ballard, Blue Moon by Richard Rogers and Lorenzo Hart, and of course performed by the Big Blue Bus. It's sad I don't see this movie talked about often enough. In fact, the movie's probably fallen by the wayside. It's only ever had a DVD and VHS release. And the DVD release I found very easily at a Bull Moose up in Maine and New Hampshire, but it's never been given a treatment by Arrow, Scream Factory, Umbrella, or any of the other secondhand markets that are putting out collector's edition DVDs and Blu-rays. One of the other things I'd love to point out is that the music was composed by Nash the Slash, who unfortunately died in May of 2014, but he was also the composer for the Friday the 13th, The New Blood. The film was nominated for a Genie Award in 3 categories: Best Achievement in Costume Design, Best Performance by an Actress, and Best Original Screenplay. Recently had seen the movie Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. Made me think of this movie a lot, as they are both Canadian. One French-Canadian and one Canadian-Canadian, if that's even a word. I highly recommend trying to find this film. One of the best things I love about it are all the various characters in the movie. Make for an incredible plotline, even if some of the special effects are very dated by today's standards, or the blood, or the biting, or the teeth themselves, the vampire. They do fall into some great vampire tropes of like turning into a bat and things like that. They kind of make up their own rules in this movie, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. But of course, sunlight still kills a vampire, which is also pretty nice compared to some things like Twilight. Definitely check this movie out if you can find it. I do believe it is streaming. If you check up where your streaming services are available, wherever you happen to be, and look for the film, I think you can find it for free on the Roku device, but don't quote me on that. Definitely give Blood and Donuts a try, especially if you saw that other great Canadian vampire movie recently.